The Tipperary and Limerick teams have been named, and it looks like the shadow boxing is set to begin. I didn't think that either team would make many changes for this, that Tipperary don't want to get Limerick used to beating them. Limerick want to keep on top while they are the dominant team, and they've already lost one game to Cork, so they wouldn't want to lose two. Limerick have taken out Declan Hannon out of the team. He's actually taken out at 26. Cian Lynch is out, Garrod Hegarty and Graham Mulcahy. So into the team, Dan Morrissey's gone in centre back. He came on the last day. Centre back was obviously wing back last year, and full back the odd time as well when needed. Darragh Donovan is in midfield for Cian Lynch. Shane Dowling is wing forward for Hegarty, very different player, and Seamus Flanagan is in full forward. One of the things that I thought about when I saw Seamus Flanagan in there, and when I see James Barry named full back for Tip, is that last year, and now the Tip defence was wide open, not protected, tactically very different proposition this year. But Flanagan would have had a lot of joy on James Barry, dragging him out onto the wing, creating space. So I'd say Barry would be very motivated to set that one right. But Flanagan's an excellent player and is playing for his position. Shane Dowling, it's a chance for him to show that he should start in the team. Last year came on, scored the goal in the All-Ireland. We all know what quality wrists he has, but he's a very different type of player to the half-forward line that's just up and down 45 to 45 all day. So perhaps he won't necessarily play in the half-forward line, but judging on Aaron Gillan, Flanagan and Casey, they're more likely to be inside, so he probably will. Darragh Donovan midfield, brilliant there last year. I thought he was up there with the hurler of the year conversation, finds himself out of team, and it's a great position for John Kiley now that he can just throw in a player like that and say, well, let's see if you're better than Cian Lynch or Darragh Donovan. So it's kind of a free shot from that point of view. He is resting the leaders, and I think for Tipperary it would have been nice for them to get a shot at the strongest Kilkenny or Limerick team. They play like Kilkenny and away from Kilkenny's strongest years, but they won't get a chance to see how to shut down the likes of Lynch and Hannon. So I think it's clever from Kiley, who had spoken last week about how it was going to be tough for guys to get a chance to play for positions now after the Clare game, but obviously he was just selling us a pup. Tipperary have made a couple of changes. James Barry comes into the team at full back. He was a late withdrawal for Barry Heffernan against Clare, and Jake Morris, he comes in wing forward instead of Dan McCormick. And we have seen a couple of bogey teams or just the odd late change for Tipperary in the game so far, so you wouldn't be completely shocked if there was a change there again. Cathal Barrett most likely going to end up on Aaron Gillan, because I think James Barry is more of a natural fit for Seamus Flanagan, but it could be wrong there and there could be a change soon. Cathal Barrett has been back to the form of 2016 so far, and this is pretty much the ultimate test to see if he's going to get back up to that very, very high level that he had, especially in the early part of that 2016 season. Sean O'Brien actually is the other change in cornerback instead of Alan Flynn, who had been named at number 7 but was playing in the full-back line. He's more of a dedicated cornerback, and you could see his matchup with Peter Casey being one that's more likely to happen, and a really, really tough test as well. I haven't seen him with the Piercy up close as well. His change of direction is exceptional, and that's something that Sean O'Brien is going to have it all to do to keep it into him there. Bonner Maher's named wing forward, and I think like Paddy Stapleton said on this earlier in the week, that Bonner Maher would have been a very good matchup for Declan Hannon, just to see, does he like that power coming at him throughout the game? And because Kiley has rested Hannon, we don't necessarily know how that would work out, and we might have to wait for later down the line to see it. I'm sure Dan Morrissey likes the idea of a physical player coming into him, so if Bonner, who's named at 10, went into 11, he'd probably prefer that than maybe someone standing off him like Bubbles, who's looking to pop over points. And that is assuming the likes of Bubbles or Jason Ford was able to get space in there and wasn't crowded out. So that's the Limerick and Tipperary. Very hard to call. I'd probably just still edge with Limerick, but Tip looking to learn a couple of things that maybe they'll be able to use later down the line. Clare in the last chance saloon against Cork. Well, a couple of teams can get knocked out at this stage. Again, not too many changes on this Clare team. Diarmuid Ryan is named at wing forward. This time from the start, David Fitzgerald is named cornerback. He was a late switch the last day. Can't see David Fitzgerald playing at number 4 where he's named. I think it's more likely that Jack Brown will go in cornerback and possibly match up with Alan Cadigan, who has terrorised Clare in the past. And again, I think he's going to be in trouble there. It's if good ball goes into Alan Cadigan, there's not many players who are going to stop him. In the forward line, Tony Kelly named at centre forward again. probably just needs to get stuck in a bit more and not just be, always available outside a ruck or ready to collect the ball and breaks in his own half. Probably needs to show a bit more variety. You can't be floating in every game. So maybe he needs to just throw himself about a little bit more, because we know the quality that he has. Diarmuid Ryan is in for Shanaher. Didn't happen for Shanaher the last day against Limerick. Perhaps if that goal had to go in early on, that might have set him up for a good performance. But Diarmuid Ryan started well against Tipperary, so maybe he'll get it. Maybe he'll do better, a little bit better for a little bit longer this time. For Cork, they probably don't know fully where they're at after the Waterford game. Created 51 scoring chances against a team that's a bit of a beaten docket at the moment. Owen Cadigan named full-back, probably going to match up on John Conlon unless there are changes, but that seems like the obvious matchup for Cork. If the Waterford game taught us anything, it's that pull Cadigan away from the square and leave a couple of the cornerbacks in there and see if they're as comfortable minding the square, which I don't think they are. So maybe Clare can look at the idea of leave Shane O'Donnell on his own inside, feed ball in front of him and let him turn and go at one of those two cornerbacks. Maybe even Peter Duggan to go in full forward and John Conlon to drag Cadigan away from the square a little bit. That's what I'd be looking at. Aidan Walsh is named corner forward. I'd imagine Pat O'Connor will pick him up, and David McInerney, the one player who came out of the Tip game anyway with any credit. I mean, the entire team was blown away by Limerick, including McInerney, who had a tough day in the full back line. But he would probably match up against Patrick Horgan. But there could be changes back there quickly. Alan Cadigan, Horgan and Aidan Walsh could start going to town, and they might see those swapped around very quickly. I would be tipping Cork there. Wexford against Kilkenny in the Leinster Championship. First time that Kilkenny have come to Wexford Park since 2017, when Davy had his own custom made box with the tinted windows, and they got a huge win. Lee Chin was amazing that day. For Kilkenny, Colin Fennelly seemed to be leading the charge on his own. I don't think TJ Reid was overly influential in play that day. Sean Murphy's named cornerback. He was sweeper a couple of years ago, had a rough time as well. Both Liam Ryan and Sean Murphy, who were both trying to look after Colin Fennelly, who was on his own in full forward. They're both, I think Colin Fennelly won a couple of penalties. They both got booked under massive pressure. Sean Murphy's named wing back. I'm guessing he'll be on Adrian Mullen and with license to follow him and take his own score on if he can get it. They need to hold Colin Fennelly, as I was saying. Probably going to be Liam Ryan again. Looking at the half forward line of Wexford, Rory O'Connor, Liam Oak McGovern and Paul Morris, considering that you'd look at this Kilkenny half back line and think they're probably not the tallest half back line we've ever seen, with Conor Fogarty, Pádraig Walsh and Paddy Deegan, you wonder will there be changes in that Wexford half forward line just to try and expose the height deficit in puck outs. You have the option of bringing out Lee Chin, you can bring out Conor MacDonald as well. And something that sprung to mind is when Davy Fitz was over Clare in the latter couple of seasons, there was times when he used to bring Conor Cleary midway through play or just before a puck out, bring him from the half back line up to the half forward line and put puck outs down on top of him and just have someone fill the space behind. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the likes of Paddy Foley, maybe Matthew O'Hanlon move up there for a puck out or two, because they need the options. The other thing is the free taking has to be on point. Whether it's going to be Lee Chin, Paul Morris, Rory O'Connor, whoever it's going to be, Conor MacDonald, that needs to be on point today, because if you give Kilkenny a sniff, TJ Reid's not going to miss his frees, and if you give them a sniff, you're not going to be winning the game. For Kilkenny, Owen Murphy starts in goals. He's back in after his knee injury, comes in for Darren Brennan, who had actually been doing pretty well, but you're not going to leave Owen Murphy out of the team. Wally Walsh is back in the 26 after missing the game against Galway. Also on the bench are Killian Buckley, who wasn't used the last day, Richie Hogan, who came in, and James Maher. I wonder if TJ Reid, who's going to be marked by. Matthew O'Hanlon normally marks the physical sort of player who roams a bit. Hard to know if he will follow him. Will Paddy Foley go on him? We saw all the clean puckouts that TJ and contested catches that TJ Reid had against Galway in what was possibly his defining performance of his career. So Paddy Foley or you'd imagine Matthew O'Hanlon is the guy. The final point then would have to be about the bench. Just the fact that Kilkenny can bring in Wally Walsh, Richie Hogan, Killian Buckley, James Maher, that could be a defining one here. And I just about see Kilkenny edging this one out, but it's down in Wexford Park, and for Kilkenny as well, like they got the perfect opening in playing Dublin at home. Dublin don't have the strongest squad either, missing a couple of guys as well, faded out towards the end of the game. Then we're able to go down to Carlow, win easily enough. Expected to beat Galway at home because Galway had looked a little bit rudderless, and losing that game could jolt them. So, but I still just about go for Kilkenny, and maybe that's just based on tradition. Dublin against Galway, then the final game of the weekend. It's actually thrown in tonight at the same time as the Kilkenny Wexford game. The thing that stands out is Shane Barrett. He was not named to start, but his red card against Carlow, which shouldn't have been a red card, that's been rescinded. There's no way he won't start. The question is who comes out. Cian Hendricken had been named a cornerback, and he did well enough against Carlow, but you'd imagine that they'll be looking for more established players, guys that have been there before. And I would say that Shane Barrett will probably go in the wing. Darragh O'Connell's been named wing back, but I'm guessing he'll go cornerback, possibly on Brian Kincannon or maybe Jason Flynn. I would imagine Kincannon is the more natural matchup for him, size-wise, speed-wise. Because Barrett then will probably go in the half-back line, and Mark Cahill-Mannion, who was sensational against Kilkenny. Barrett's got the pace and doesn't mind if he's dragged out the field. I've often seen him play midfield for Na Fianna. Keane Boland is a player that hasn't been mentioned too much in the mainstream media, but he's been excellent for Dublin this year, and he's liable to score 3 or 4 points from play. Wexford certainly didn't enjoy him in that game. Another thing is Liam Rush not starting. He's had his injuries this year. He's had ankle injuries, hand injuries, all sorts of injuries. If he's in any way right, he will start this game. I haven't seen the 26 per se. He's not named in the 15. In the full forward lines, Fergal Whiteley, Ronan Hayes and Eamon Dillon. Trollier Dillon got a couple of goals against Carlow. He's got serious pace. Ronan Hayes has a good hand on him for a young guy as well, even at senior level has a good hand. And Fergal Whiteley has just lovely hurling, lovely stick work. The question is whether any of them is a Liam Rush type figure who can just barrel through the middle, get the ball, win a penalty, win a free, as he's done already in this championship. Maybe Conal Keane could go in and be that target man. Remains to be seen. For Galway, Darren Morrissey, who was the minor captain a couple of years ago and man of the match in the All-Ireland final, he's starting corner back. John Hanbury was sent off against Kilkenny. Morrissey made his debut in the league, and it's quite a game to be thrown into for your debut in the championship. Joseph Cooney stays at wing back, brilliant against Kilkenny last week. Maybe he'll pick up Conal Keane if he's in the half back line. Pádraig Mannion might go on Danny Sutcliffe, try and blot him out, because if Sutcliffe isn't scoring and you hold down 1 or 2 more, Dublin are going to struggle for scores. The matchup of the game, Conor Whelan against Owen O'Donnell, is one you'd expect to see, and this is 2 kind of bull sharks, 2 balls of testosterone coming together in this match. Conor Whelan has been more or less unstoppable. Paul Murphy had a tough time with him last week. Conor Whelan got a beautiful goal turning inside Murphy, but Owen O'Donnell, he's the sort of full-back who likes to come out and beat his man in front, so it's going to be exciting to watch because it's 2 lads who are going to be going bald headed for it. Jason Flynn, probably picked up by Paddy Smith, who has been underratedly excellent throughout this championship as well. Really, really excellent player. Johnny Glynn then, centre forward, really, really good against Kilkenny in Nolan Park, where you need a big leader. Will he be marked by Chris Crummy or Sean Moran? Chris Crummy has a little bit of a height advantage on Moran in terms of trying to match up with Johnny Glynn, but they probably want Moran sweeping from centre back. And there's a possibility that you can say, okay, we'll leave Johnny Glynn and let him pick up a little bit of ball around the middle and allow Moran to sit back. Or maybe Dublin will draw an extra person out around the middle and tell him to keep an eye on Glynn. But it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Adrian Toohey, who we know is a corner back from the last couple of years with Galway, but has played in the forwards for his club Baha many times. He'll possibly be picked up then by Crummy or Moran, whichever isn't on Glynn. I think Dublin are going to struggle with the puck outs in this game because that half back line of Mannion, McInerney and Cooney, very big forbidding half back line. So Sutcliffe, Keeney and Boland out there. Maybe you're looking at Rush coming in as well to try and get a bit of a platform. I think it's going to be tough for Dublin in Parnell at home. Probably won't be too much in it, but I just think Dublin, they're lacking a couple of scorers on the field, as you can see on the team sheet there. But should be a bruising encounter.